I don't know why I felt the need to thumbs up like that.
That's okay. Thank you, Anne. So just bear with me as I do a stumble through on this because this is something I've never done before. And thank you everybody for being here. So we've established a quorum and I will go ahead and start reading. And I've done a little trick this time. So you will hear me put on a recording and just let me know if you can't hear it for some reason. Okay. So Jericho, I'm going to ask you a quick question. I do the reading first before we call to order.
Yep.
Okay, so public participation guidelines. Members of the public wishing to participate in this meeting must use their full name for Zoom access. If full names are not used, people will not be allowed to participate in the discussion. The town reserves the right to remove any member of the public from the meeting who does not use a full name or acts inappropriately. As a preliminary matter, this is Athlyn Sweeney, interim chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tara?
Here.
Veronica?
Here.
Sue?
Here.
Jocelyn?
Here.
And Veronica. Oh, did I say Veronica already?
Yep.
Did I get everybody? And I'm here. So we're good. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jericho?
In attendance?
Anne?
Here.
Anticipated speakers, we have none, so we will move over that. And let's try this tricky little. And somebody can give me a thumbs up if they can hear it. Jericho, why don't you do that?
Good evening. This open meeting of the CHS is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, CHS is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and that all members are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that folks may be able to see you and take care not to share your screen. Anything you broadcast may be captured by this recording. All supporting materials have been provided. Members of this body are available on the town website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, the co-chair, know otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, please permit me to cover some of the ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, the co-chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the co-chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone and your computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the co-chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the co-chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the co-chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak through the co-chair. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote.
And that's done. Thank you. And so this meeting is now in session, and can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move.
A second.
So Veronica and Tara,
I think it was Veronica and Sue.
thank you. And Sue, great. So the agenda is approved. The next item is for us to discuss our summer meeting schedule. And this is something that Jericho and I both looked back on last year and recognized that a lot of people have a hard time getting to the meeting during the summer. So we wanted to put it forward for anybody to have input. We were thinking maybe not meeting over the summer and reestablishing our meetings in September. So we wanted to see how people felt about that. Did anybody have any input? Tara?
I don't have a problem meeting in the summer. But I'll defer to others. Particularly because we have the Zoom option as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I second that, because with Zoom, as long as there's advance notice, you know, whether we're on island or off, we can take an hour and participate.
Okay,
So
thank you, Veronica. Sue?
Go either way. And I totally agree that Zoom makes it easier to pop in from wherever, but I am not sure how long the Zoom option will be legally available for open meetings. I think right now it goes through July 15th, and then the governor has to decide if he's going to extend it again.
Okay, so if that changed, that could be difficult.
Right.
Okay,
And if that changed, I'd definitely say wait till September.
right.
yeah.
Just going through Veronica. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say Veronica. You already did your input. Claudia?
She may still be connecting to audio. Doesn't look like she's finally connected.
Oh, you're right. Jocelyn, what are your thoughts on summer meetings?
Either or works. I can make summer work. Like people said, if we're like anywhere we are, we can as long as there's Wi-Fi and we know in advance, we can make it work. I'm also okay with waiting until September.
Okay. And we're still waiting for Claudia to connect. How do you feel, Jericho? What if we did something like we're doing today and kept the meetings to about a half an hour just to make sure that we're taking care of any business? So if we decide to do it over the summer, that we keep them nice and short.
I like that concept. We can be meeting and planning ahead of time for stuff. And then when the main reason we considered pushing this back when we discussed this was that the police report project that we started up is probably going to be a little harder to pull off in the summertime than in the fall. So if we want to go with sort of housekeeping meetings over the summer, once a month for about 30 minutes, just to kind of do updates, do sort of ask about anything that you guys might have town questions about, and just sort of keep the momentum rolling, I'm entirely okay with that.
And Claudia looks like she's still having some difficulty. So I also just want to quickly say welcome to Ruthie. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Ruthie.
Hello.
Hi, Ruthie.
And Ruthie,
Mhm.
you're not going to be with us over the summer, but do you have any thoughts about something that we haven't considered?
Not right now.
Okay, thank you so much. So Jericho, is this something with the feedback we have that you and I can then discuss following and send a follow-up email to the committee?
Yes, I think what we can get away with is we can have like a 15-minute talk about it in the next week or so. We can then, I'll do a range of possible dates. We'll try and get another meeting together after that, and that should work, I believe.
Because what about, do we need to vote on anything specific to this?
The only thing we would need to vote on would be if we deviate from our monthly schedule. So no vote would mean that we maintain a monthly schedule with a time to be determined later.
Okay. So monthly schedule would mean, what is it right now? So we've got our June, so that would mean 2 more meetings and then we're into September.
Yep.
And when you do your piece, your update, can you do a little bit of an update for everybody on the call about where we were, just so we can recap? And then maybe the focus of the 2 summer meetings is to really just shore up our September meeting that includes all of the media.
Yeah, I think that's that should be fine. But Yeah, so basically what we'd be doing, we would be doing sort of basic communication stuff, and then we would be basically polishing the questions that we want to bring up when it comes to the police report issue.
Correct.
That should be entirely okay. I don't believe we'll even need a motion for that. We would just put it on the next agenda when we publish it.
Wonderful. And we do not need any vote to have the 30-minute meetings over the summer to
No.
change the length. Great. All right. So I think that sounds good. I think we'll stay with what we're doing and hopefully we're able to meet quorum because I know that was difficult last year. So that's wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Did anybody have any last thoughts about it prior to moving on to the next agenda item? No.
So you're saying the meetings for the summer are 30 minutes?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Where's the damn thing?
Sue?
We have a newly appointed people that are coming in July.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So 2 new people who will be coming in July. Tara is back with us, but she has continued from taking the position.
And then we'll have a Jennifer Porter and Amanda Wright from Fairwinds. There we go.
Thank you. So moving on to the next agenda item, it's council position discussion. So as we're all aware, Brooke is on the select board, which is really exciting for her. So we want to congratulate her. But now the positions of chair and co-chair are open again. So I think what we want to do is have anybody outreach who has any interest, which I'm hoping we have some interest in the positions. And I did want to put out there, don't feel funny about putting your name in for chair. I would be totally okay continuing either in the co-chair position or anybody taking over chair or co-chair. Anybody have any thoughts about that?
And if you are interested in doing, taking any of the positions, chair, co-chair, or potentially a secretary position, if we want to create one, you can just email me directly and I'll be the only one who sees it. And then I will bring it up for like a voting type thing. A voting type thing, by which I mean voting.
Thank you, Jericho.
Just wanted to clarify.
Jericho, could you just say a little bit about the 2 positions, just very quickly?
Yeah, so chair and co-chair are more than just symbolic, but largely symbolic positions. They don't carry any extra power, but they do carry extra responsibility. So I'm really selling you guys on this concept. They're basically to sort of coordinate times, to be the front person to communicate with staff, to be the point person for interacting with organizations outside of the Council of Human Services, and then also to do the less exciting work of sitting with me and figuring out what the agenda will be and what schedules will work.
Which I would like to say generally takes us about, to do that piece of it, at least in this small time that I've been doing it, takes us about a half hour to figure that out.
And that was
maybe a couple of texts back and forth.
that was fairly consistent through most of Brooke's tenure, or well, my tenure while Brooke was here. So I don't think it'll be much more than half an hour plus texts and a couple of emails.
And then oftentimes Brooke and I would meet and talk outside of Jericho just to get a couple of things. Welcome, Claudia. To get a couple of things sorted out before she went to make the agenda with Jericho, just for any clarity.
Okay.
Where there might be a little more work is if there are any kinds of working groups or a project that we're putting on outside of the typical group meeting time, the council meeting time. Are there any questions? No? Okay. Oh, did I-
Jericho, question for you.
Of course.
Would you basically say that if we had an interest to let you know and we would have a vote, or are we going to do a nomination now? I guess.
We
I'm trying
would-
to figure-
We would not be deciding this now.
Okay. All righty. Very
So
good.
Jericho, just confirming what Veronica's saying, anybody with interest should get in touch with you outside of this meeting.
Yep. And then I'm going to check with Maureen Coleman compliance, but then what I'll probably do is set up an online poll basically with the people who have volunteered and then let you guys anonymously vote from there.
Great.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
Jericho, you brought up the question of whether or not there'd be a secretary. Is that also,
It's so secretary, some of my boards have a
Yeah.
secretary that does internal record keeping. And then we also have Ann to do the official minutes. It's not a necessary position, but if someone has a desire to be a little like more granular in the record keeping, we can have that position be made and then we can divvy up some of the responsibilities that we're chair and co-chair among the three.
got it.
Thank you. Any last questions before I move on to the next agenda item? Okay, so the next agenda item, I really feel like we've covered, unless there's something I'm forgetting, Jericho, it was future meeting scheduling and length of discussions. So I think what we've talked about so far is length of discussions being a half an hour over the summer. And then obviously the meeting we have where we have media, we're probably going to look at making that a little longer than usual anyhow. But I really want to be thoughtful to people's time and make sure that the commitment we make for time we keep to, because once we get into the school year and people get busy, I don't want to have people over committing to the time either. So I want to really be thoughtful about the time we ask people to be on the call. So following this September meeting, which kind of necessitates being longer, I'd like to consider, they were at an hour and a half. Do I have that right? 6:30 to 8. I think that felt long to me. Did anybody else feel that that was long? I've got a couple of thumbs up out there and head shakes. So I think that reduced some of the ability for people to want to be able to be on the call, on the meeting. So I'd really like to relook at that and consider, do we need to do a vote if we want to, after September, move it back to, no, we can just decide. Okay, so I think I'm just going to open it up for specific feedback about good timing for the meetings. Jericho?
One thing I did want to bring up, we do not have to have the same day every single time.
Okay.
We can have it be fluid. It does not need to be during a work week if that works better for people. And you know, I want to make it as easy and painless as possible to participate in this board. So my proposition is, if we can set and keep to a regular schedule, that simplifies some of the record keeping and requesting Zoom time. But if we need to, I can, at the beginning of each month, set up a couple of options and we can select from them, or we can work around it like that. This is probably one of the more diverse on a couple of axes group that meets with the town. So I think it warrants some extra flexibility on our side to make it work. So, you know, we don't have to have the same thing every single time, and we can work around your guys' schedule. I think as a default, putting an hour and a regular thing is probably going to be easier for some of the logistical elements, just getting Zoom time, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that we can be a lot more flexible than we were. And I think we can make it easier for people to make it to these meetings.
So just by kind of thumbs up, you don't have to say anything. Do many of you feel like an hour is plenty of time for the meeting? Okay, lots of thumbs up on that. So I think we will look at that and get back to you guys with our ideas about what we can do, both in flexibility of days, whether we want to keep it standard, and the time. So that's fabulous. Thank you. Any last things anybody wants to say before I move on?
Oh, I was just agreeing with Jericho. That was one of the hardest things for me because I work a couple jobs. So at times it was extremely hard for me to attend. But if we were to be able to be a little bit more fluid, I think I would be able to attend more and hopefully continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruthie. And I just wanted to check with Jericho to make sure I understand. Is there still a possibility for Ruthie to continue past her?
I have to double check exactly with when the end date is for her position. So I think, yes, there is.
Okay.
It depends on when the terms are ending up. I actually need to figure out the composition of this board because I got surprised by these confirmations arriving when they did. So I need to be a little closer to the people, like basically to Erica and what's going on the select board.
Great. But Ruthie, thank you for those comments because I think your situation is a good example of why we want to try to be more flexible.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. The next agenda item is the update from the Director of Human Services. So Jericho.
So I like to keep this as sort of a question and answer. I'll very quickly give a couple of updates on things that I've been doing and what's going on around town. And then you can ask me anything you would want to ask the town, and I will, if I don't know, find the answer for you. Right off the start, I'm going to do a quick COVID update. We saw a wastewater spike, the sample this week, which I believe is indicative of a second summer outbreak, much like last year's Delta. Be careful. This variant, we're on BA.5, is probably going to drive the spread this time. We aren't doing any testing, basically, so there won't be any numbers to cause an alarm. And I'm pretty sure we're undercounting our daily positives by probably around 20 times. So I'm expecting the actual number of new infections per day on Nantucket to be in the possibly three figures at the moment. The other thing, there should be rapid tests distributed around the island at a couple of different locations: Athenaeum, Community School, Boys and Girls Club, a couple other places where they're public facing. So if you need a rapid test, those are places you can check. You can also get in touch with me at the health department, and I can scare one up for you if necessary. Past that, other than that, COVID is pretty steady state. We're going to have a couple of possibly one of the things we'll do in the short meetings is I'm going to bring some people from other human services planning. Yeah, FRC, I think. Thank you very much, Sue. The other thing that we're going to do is maybe bring a couple of providers in. There's Our House, which I'm working with on the behavioral health initiative that we're doing. I'd like to have them come in and give kind of an update on what they do and the additional options that'll be available from them. The behavioral health roadmap group has started making work groups, and I'm hopefully going to be able to recruit a few people from here on a youth-focused behavioral health interventions, and rolling out some student-facing behavioral health education and resources. One of our per diem nurses, Keziah Duarte, is going to be doing health, wellness, and checkups in Our House as soon as we can get her in there and as soon as they're up and running. And we're hopefully going to be spinning that out to other groups of youth. So we're trying to do physical health and behavioral health and try and tie them in as best as we can. So hopefully that'll be some stuff that will be good news for everybody and some more resources we can bring to people who need them. Past that, I am gearing up for another COVID spike over the summer, and I am running around putting out small fires pretty much constantly. If anybody, so one of the other things that this, excellent, I wasn't sure if I have to check them up. The other thing is that if you guys have any questions about what's going on in the town anywhere, it's often difficult to find someone to ask your question to. So if anybody has questions about how town's operating, why the hell are they doing this? Why aren't they doing this? Or what is this all about? You can email me outside of meetings, and you can always email me during these meetings. So with my major updates basically done, does anyone have any questions, concerns, anything they'd like me to look into?
Jericho, can I say one more thing prior to? I think you were going to talk a little bit about the CRC.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. So the CRC, which Ruthie was on, and I'll pick your brain on that for a second, gets 2 representatives from CHS. CRC is the it's basically how we apportion money that's collected for human services. It's one of low-key, the more impactful things you can do in the town. And basically what it is it's divvying about recently around $700,000 dollars to a variety of different nonprofits on the island, everything from Fairwinds on down, as well as a Safe Place, Artists Association, anything human services related. And then we also are divvying up a percentage of the recreational cannabis sales for substance abuse programs. Ruthie, this year is going to be a little different than last year, hopefully. Basically, you have to cram a year's worth of meetings into about 4 months because of how the way the town's financial system works. We have to release grants, collect grants, evaluate grants, do site visits, and then report to select board with our budget recommendations. And that has to happen over the course of basically October to February. This year, we're going to start earlier. And we're going to have pre-scheduled meetings. So it should be a little less of a cram it all in at once type experience that Ruthie unfortunately had to go through on her first year. This was not a usual year, Ruthie. It was a little wild. But we'll need 2 people from yeah, exactly. We'll need 2 people from this organization, volunteers, to participate in the CRC, the Contract Review Committee. That will be probably a grand total of 12 or 14 meetings over about 4 months, with 1 or 2 in the outside of that period. We don't have to make those appointments for another month or 2, but eventually, as members leave or rotate through, we will need to put 2 people forward for that. Did that cover it, Ethelyn?
Thank you, Jericho.
Very much
Yes.
so.
Thank you.
And Ruthie, may I ask you, what was the time commitment like for you each week during that time?
Well, because I worked a few jobs, it was hard. And for some reason, it's like either I was at work when we were having the meeting, and I would have to like sneak away to attend.
Mhm.
So it was a little bit complicated for me with the scheduling. I loved it. I was 100% on board for it. It was the challenge for me was
The timing.
the timing. Yes.
Okay. So other than that, you really enjoyed the process.
Oh, yes, I was all for it. I was all on board for it. Yes.
Very
It was a
good.
really good experience. But it was also a little bit difficult for me to catch up with some of the things, I guess, because I've never done it before. So,
Right. Well,
um,
thank you
but
for
Jericho is good at keeping me on my feet.
it. Thank you, Ruthie. Okay. I guess in the same vein, Jericho, if people have interest in that, email you
Mhm.
or questions about it, additional questions.
Yep.
Okay.
And you guys can discuss amongst yourself anything on this as long as it's not in groups more than 2. And then if we are going to do any larger group communications, it has to go through a staff member, sort of in large sort of mass emails. Same deal with the chair, co-chair, if you're interested, or if you just have more questions, or if you want to see how it might be different, just get in touch with me. And then I'll get you as set up about it as I can.
Thank you very much. We're moving on to agenda item other business. So this is anything that anybody has to bring up for future interests or questions. That's very cute. So I'm just going to give you guys a minute to think about it and respond.
Okay.
This can be wanting to just put things on the agenda for us in the future to talk about for items that we're interested in. Because the media, getting done with the media meeting the next time in September is going to be the last agenda item we had come up with. If you want to think about that and we can talk about it at another meeting, that's okay too. Veronica?
Okay. I'll make it as concise as possible. Over the last month or the past couple of months, just being out and about in town, and probably more in this past week because there's more people around, I've been observing interactions with people. And I don't want to point fingers or whatever, but I've noticed not, and some of them may be town employees, some may be private employees, volunteers, etc. But not everyone necessarily has back in, a buzzword, or the word we used a number of years ago is cultural competency, and an understanding of that we all are different. We all may interact differently. Not anyone is right, not anyone is wrong, not good or bad. And thought that I had watching last week's select board meeting, Kamal McCarthy did his review of the Department of Equity, and I'm blank on the full name of his department. And I thought that he mentioned the possibility of training that they would make available. And I just wanted to bring it up as a potential that if it's not available, can we get something like that? And not just for employees, but the wave bus drivers, as an example, or even if it's maybe even a shop owner that would like to send someone beyond the town employees, because I've just observed some things that I go, ouch. And also, I think that we can all, learn on an ongoing basis and refreshers. When I was on Board of Ed in New Jersey, we devoted a tremendous amount of time to training in cultural competency. And I think that ultimately it paid off. And a small example was we had our school front office staff would help people fill out forms, and they would look at someone and say, well, they didn't check off family or ethnicity or whatever, and they would make assumptions. And, I'd say, why do we have, it just, and when we got looking, people were just making assumptions. So by doing some training, it certainly helped all the way around. I'd like to see if we could either make that suggestion or see if we can move that somehow or another.
Thank you. I think that's a really good observation right now. And we have a lot more people on island, a lot more tension. And I think we also have the issue of having islanders here year round, as well as new people who come in for the summer. And that's a cultural issue as well that comes up. So I think there are multiple cultural issues that we see happen on a small island. And I think that's a great idea. I wanted to give the opportunity for anybody to speak to this as well. Tara?
I would just say, Veronica, I agree with you 100%. I've been through training multiple times for the purposes of boards and communities that I live and work in. And so I think, it doesn't always hit home and change everything right away, but I think it's really important to do it. And I would definitely request that we do, and bringing it out to the broader non-town employee group I think is really important. As you point out, there's so many touch points between people who live and work here year round and even seasonally that, could benefit tremendously from from this, whether it be folks at Stop and Shop or the Wave or where, I mean, there's so many touch points.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Anybody else have any thoughts? Sue?
Well, Jericho's hand was up, so should I wait?
No, you go first. I have a couple things. I've been talking to Kamal about a couple of things, so I can inform everyone on sort of where the DEI department is headed. And then, but that can be like a wrap up at the end.
Okay.
Um, as I'm hearing this, and I fully support training for anybody that wants it, but we know we're not going to get, everybody to sit down for an hour or 3 hours, and really how much is enough training. You could spend 2 weeks intensive and still not get everything you need. But even if so I'm wondering if we could be part of, maybe it'll be with the DEI office, like a campaign that just, a full media blast, so that, because you're not going to get tourists off the boat to sit down for how to be nice to the rest of us training. But if we just keep putting out, way back when, well, not even that long ago, but like act kind, and, like there were always these little messages around. And I would love this group to be any part of pushing kindness and embracing each other around at a distance because of COVID, but still.
Thank you, Sue. So I think by the shaking of heads, it seems like everybody thinks this is a good idea. Is this something we would like to, on one of our summer meetings, give 15 minutes to, Jericho? Maybe the first one, maybe the July?
I'm gonna check with Kamal for his availability. I've been wanting him to come here a couple of different times, but he's building a department from scratch and has no staff at the moment. So he is kind of playing catch up.
And I don't
More or
think we
less.
have to have Kamal straight away. I think it's more the conversation of how, because I like the start of this conversation, because people are starting to get creative and think, well, people don't have a lot of time to go up to a cultural competency training necessarily in the summer, especially when everybody's very busy, but maybe we suggest doing that in the off season, but in the interim, we look at some kind of campaign, getting something on the radio and making those suggestions to the DEI director.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I think if we want to brainstorm and bat around what we can do further on down the line, then that makes a pretty solid last 15 minutes to the July meeting.
Yep. And I want to try to, I'm just sort of observing how long it takes us to do this, and we're at 6:39. So I really want to move on and make sure we're sticking to the time. So we do not have anybody joining from the public, I do not think.
Nope.
So we can scratch that. And we will get out the next options for dates to everybody. Jericho, you and I can look at some dates and times. Can we say if people had feedback about what days in July are good for them, they can email you?
Yep. As long as they email directly to me, it should be
Directly.
entirely okay.
So please think about that and make it easier for us to pick good times to give us options by giving us a little bit of information about what days work for you. That would be helpful. And we will get that back to you and schedule our next meeting. And like we said, we're going to keep it to the 30 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Veronica.
Just one last thing. Is it possible to get a full listing of email addresses and contact information for the board?
As long as everyone here consents to it,
Okay.
and I think there's one other step I need to do, and I'll check with compliance about that, but I believe we can publish, or not publish, I believe we can share the information of everybody who's on the board with other board members, and you are all entirely welcome to share that information of your own accord as well.
Great. And Jericho, how do you need that consent?
Basically just send me an email, saying this is going to be send me an email, send me an email, and then, we'll just keep that, on records as in case it comes up, which it almost certainly will not.
Great.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
You and
Second.
Second, Ronna, thank you. All right, the meeting is done. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
honestly, everybody, thank you a lot for taking the time to meet in June. Hopefully we'll see you all guys in a few weeks.
And I hope the half hours help.
Thank you.
All
All right.
right, take
you.
care.
Have a
Tara will be
wonderful
thinking
night.
about you.
Thank you.
Feel better.
See
Take
ya.
care, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye, Jericho. Thank you. Bye, Claudia.